This is a tutorial video on creating and using student groups in Illuminate Education's data warehouse. My name is Chad Riffle and I'm an instructional consultant with the K-12 ETA in West Michigan. And for your convenience, I've included a link to the slideshow that I'm presenting today, and feel free to bookmark that link and use it anytime you need to. It is located right here. All right, first of all, what are student groups? Student groups are a filter that allows you to add specific subsets of students. Basically, it allows you to pick the students you're going to view when you're using the data warehouse. This can be done in multiple places. In your control panel, you can set your overall student group to a student group, and then everything you do in DNA, the only students you'll see will be that student group. If you do this, just remember if you're not seeing other students that you got to go back in and change that. Or you can also use it when you're doing assessments or reports to filter students. This is very helpful for somebody who's maybe a title teacher and has student groups, or if you're differentiating your instruction and you have groups of students doing different assessments, you can use student grouping to filter the students, and you can manage those groups yourself. All right, let's go ahead and start creating student groups. Before we do that, though, I do want to mention a couple of things. First of all, student groups can be shared, so if you had somebody creating groups and multiple teachers need access to those groups, you can share them. Second of all, if you're not seeing the student group, you have to make sure the visibility setting is set to view, and by default, it's set to not view. So that's probably the biggest problem I come across with student groups. And the third thing to know is that student groups are static. That means that they will not change when PowerSchool updates the Illuminate rosters. If you want a student added or removed, you actually have to manually go in and add or remove students. So if you're missing a student, it's pretty easy. Just go add that student to the student group, or if you don't want them anymore, you can remove them. All right, so the first step to creating a student group is to log into Illuminate. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see the Students tab. You click on Students. You probably won't have as many options here, but somewhere under General, you'll find Student Groups. When you click on that, it'll take you to the next screen, which is a list of your student groups. And you can click Create Group to create your own group. That'll take you to the the overview of your student group. And from this screen, this is where you turn that very important, that visibility group, you turn that on. If that's turned off, if that's set to no, that means that you won't be able to see your student group anywhere you go. This is where you can change the group name, and this is where you can see, you can do all of your editing. This is kind of like the overview page. And you're done. The next step is to start adding students in a student group. You start again by going to Students, Student Groups, and then clicking on the group that you want to edit or add students to. In the gray bar at the top of the screen, you're going to find the Add Students button and click on that. That will take you to a filter to filter out students. You can just type, if you know the student's name, just type it in here and click Find Students. That will bring up a list of all the students that meet your filters. And then you can actually add multiple students from the screen. All you're going to do is click the select box for each student you want to add, and then click the Add Students button. It'll light up in a blue color once you have a couple of students selected. After you click the Add Students button, the little green pop-up will say how many students you added, and that means you're done. You've added your student to your student group. Now let's say you want to see who's in the group, or you want to remove students from a student group. Same process, you're going to go under Students, Student Groups, and click on the blue text to open that student group. Then you're going to find the word Students. It's right next to Add Students. That will show you all of the students in your student group, their start date, and if you want to set an end date, let's say you know for a fact you're going to change your student group on this date, or you want to remove them from the group on this date, you can set that. Just remember, if you set that, it will just take them out on that date. If you want to just manually remove them right now, what you do is the first step is select the box next to the student's name, and then the second step is to click Save Changes. And you've done it. Now, let's say you create a student group. You want other teachers or staff members to have access to that student group. Here's the process for doing that. You start by going to Student Groups, opening the student group, and then clicking Share. Once you click Share, you're going to get a couple options here. It's going to ask you who to share it with, and we want to share it with an individual user. And then the next box down says the user, and then gives you a text box to type the name in. You're going to want to type that person's name in. When they pop up, you click on it, and then they'll have their name will be in this box. Once you've selected the user you want to give access to this, the next step is to pick out what permissions you want them to have. If you select Can View only, that's going to force them to always be able to see that student group. They won't be able to edit it. They won't be able to delete it. They'll just be able to see it. If you select Can Edit, you're giving them edit access. If you select Can Delete, you're giving them the option to be able to delete the group for both of you. And then if you select this at the bottom here, this Can Use as a Visibility, that will allow them to turn that visibility off, turn it to no, and then they won't have it listed in their student groups anymore. So let's say you add a student group and then the next year you forget to remove that student group, and this teacher logs in and they're like, hey, I'm still seeing this group. How do I fix that? They can go into the group and they can turn the visibility option off. So those are the 4 permissions you can set. Once you have the permissions you want them to have set, just click Share. Now, a couple tips. If you do not see the group, make sure that the visibility is turned on. Groups only change when the user changes them. So, if a new student adds, let's say you create a student group for different teachers, and a new student adds in PowerSchool, it won't add them to the student group, even though it adds them to Illuminate. You're going to have to manually go in and do that. And the last tip, it's not on here, but I think this is an important one, is when you're sharing student groups with people, make sure you let them know, so that way when they're in there, they don't see these random student groups and wonder why they have them. I get a lot of emails about that. So, all right, if you have any questions, again, my name is Chad Riffle. My email address is CRIF as in Frank, F as in Frank, LE at K12ETA.org. Go ahead and send me an email if you have any questions, and we'll get it figured out. Thank you very much.